What's up everyone, Kai-san here and welcome to the first episode of my Path of Exile tutorial / Let's Play. In this first video, I'll talk a bit about PoE in general and why I personally would recommend it to anyone. I'll also explain how I'm planning on structuring the tutorial, and we will have a look at some basic game mechanics that you will encounter, especially at the start of the game. I'll have a lot of cuts in my videos, which serves two major purposes. First of all, obviously it makes it easier for me to record and to edit. And also it makes it better for you guys because I can easily cut out the boring parts of gameplay and will only present you guys with the parts that will give you the information you need to succeed at the game. Alright, so let's get started with PoE in general. So what exactly is Path of Exile? It's a so-called point-and-click action RPG, and similar to games like Diablo and Torchlight, you create your hero, you fight monsters with your hero, and progress through the game while looking for better and better items to drop. I personally would go as far as saying that it is the best action RPG out there right now, and there's three main reasons why I think that is the case. The first, and probably most important reason for me, is gameplay mechanics. I think a lot of people would agree that they either make or break a game, and in this particular case they definitely made it. Grinding Gear Games, the developer of Path of Exile, looked at old games, especially Diablo 2, and yes, they copied some things, they copied some mechanics. Nobody starts from scratch, but they had a lot of own ideas that they wanted to have in the game, and things like the currency system where you are not based on gold anymore but on currency items, the passive skill tree which allows for an insane amount of variability and different builds that you could come up with, and the skill gem system that is really unique and also allows for a lot of different possibilities for you to play around with. So all of that, I think, creates a really good ground for a long-term playability of the game, and is the first reason why I would definitely choose this game. The second reason for me is the game environment. Although the game can probably not be called indie anymore because there's a lot of people that started playing, it still has the feel of an indie game because the community is quite dedicated to the game and they're quite serious about what they're doing, which probably has to do with the fact that it is more complex of a game than comparable games in its genre. And the second part of the environment is also the development side. Grinding Gear Games is quite a small team of developers, but they're really dedicated to improving the game over and over again. And I've been playing since open beta, so I've been playing this game for a while now, and it has constantly gotten better and better with each expansion, with each addition of content. There's constant bug fixes, not like Blizzard where you're happy that your bug is fixed after 6 months. And they're really listening to the community. So kudos to GGG, and yeah, this site is definitely one of the reasons why you should try this game. But not least, the third reason why I think Path of Exile is such a great game is its free-to-play model. There's a ton of games on the market that advertise themselves as free-to-play, but in most cases it turns out that with real money you can actually buy quite significant advantages in-game, whether it be XP boosts or getting certain items with a second type of in-game currency faster by paying real money. So it's not really, to me, that's not the definition of free-to-play. Grinding Gear Games came up with a different approach, and I think it's a great idea. The payment model that they came up with is all about so-called aesthetic upgrades, which mean that it's all visuals that you can buy. The entire core game is free. You can enjoy the entire game. You don't have to pay a penny. The only thing is if you want to improve your visuals, and by that I mean the look of your hero. If you want him to have a fiery sword, or a cool looking piece of armor, or a pet without combat stats, so there's, you know, it's not gonna fight with you, it's just gonna follow you along. If you want to have like cool gimmicks like that, that's what you pay for. There's one thing that is not visual and that might be considered pay to win, which is additional stash tabs. You can buy stash tabs with money. You start out with 4 of them, and in this tutorial I will actually show you that you can go through the entirety of the game with just 4 stash tabs and you'll be fine. But it is somewhat of an advantage because you can store more items. You don't have to sell them as fast. You can wait for a better offer. And certain recipes also require you to collect items until you can then vendor a whole set of them. So with the 4 stash tabs, you run into some trouble in terms of where to store items. You could always create a new character and then you have some more space as well. So there's ways around it. It's just, if you want to play efficient, then more stash tabs are the easier way to go. That's the only part that could be considered pay to win. Everything else is free to play entirely. And yeah, that's the third reason why I think the game is great. So what will this tutorial look like? As I've said, I've been playing Path of Exile for a long time now, and during that time I collected a lot of knowledge, a lot of information about the game, and I'm just trying to give that information to new players so they will have an easier time starting out. I don't really consider myself a hardcore gamer or a top player, a top racer. I'm none of these. I'm a decent player. My playstyle is rather slow compared to others, I would even say. But I'm a person who is really interested in the game mechanics, in the way that the game works. So if you're interested in that as well, I can definitely give you some insights on that, especially new players who are just starting out. This game is quite complex, so it can be overwhelming at first, and this will be an easy introduction for you into the game and help you understand what it's all about. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our first character. As you can see, there are no characters yet. This is obviously not my main account. I created a new account simply for this tutorial, so I can show you guys that you don't need more than 4 stash tabs to play the game and enjoy it thoroughly and explore everything that it has to offer. And also I would have had to delete one of my characters on my main account because I maxed out the number of characters that you can have, so this was an easier option. Let's get into the character selection screen. And here you can see there's 6 different classes in the background that you can choose from. And this leads up to one of the main things about Path of Exile, one of the main mechanics, I guess. The game is centered around 3 different statistics or 3 different attributes. You have strength on one end, you have dexterity, and you have intelligence. Those are the main attributes, and they influence different mechanics and different stats in the game, and the classes in the game are centered around those 3 attributes. So if we go through those classes here, the first one is the Templar, and this is a hybrid class between strength and intelligence. The second one is a Shadow, which is also a hybrid between dexterity and intelligence this time. And I'm going to skip 2 to go to this one. The Duelist is the 3rd hybrid, and this one is dexterity and strength. And then we have the non-hybrids, like the pure classes, as you could say. Marauder is pure strength.
I was born to fight.
Ranger is pure dexterity.
Not a deer's, not a rabbit's, and not mine.
Same as in most other games, you know. And the Witch is pure intelligence.
If only they had listened to their cowardice.
There is a 7th class, but you have to play the game and you have to unlock it in-game while playing.
Banished to Ray class.
And this 7th class is called a Scion, and it is even more of a hybrid because it combines strength, dexterity, and intelligence, so all 3 attributes in one class. For this playthrough, I thought up, like I created a build, and this build is centered around the ranger. So we will choose the ranger, and we will choose a league now.
Every soul has a
and you can see there are challenge leagues.
They can.
Most of the times you have challenge leagues.
And one day it'll take me in return.
I think every 3 to 4 months a new challenge league comes out. And it is comparable to the ladders that you could play on in Diablo 2 back in the day. The difference here is that, first of all, you have a hardcore challenge league. In this case, it is Bloodlines. This came out, those new challenge leagues came out 3 days ago. So this one is the hardcore one with packs of magic monsters that have an additional mod from the Bloodlines pool. And you have a softcore one, Torment, where tormented spirits haunt Rayclast, and if you slay them, you can claim their treasures. These challenge leagues are usually the leagues where new features of the game are presented, so it's always worthwhile to play in them. And also, because you get new challenge leagues every few months, you get a fresh start. The economy is reset basically, and it's always I love to play in them. I love to just start from scratch. In comparison to the challenge leagues, which, as I said, are fresh economies, you have the two, I guess, old style or two standard leagues in a sense. You have standard, which is the softcore main league, where eventually all characters end up in. It is somewhat of a character sync in the game. So this is, if you play hardcore and your character dies, it will not be deleted straight away, as for example it is in Torchlight. It will just be moved out of the hardcore league and it will be in standard. If you play Torment, obviously it will go to standard as well, but even if you survive in Torment and don't die, it will go to standard as well. If you survive in Bloodlines for the 3 months and the league ends, which will happen at some point, you will go into hardcore. So hardcore is just if you never died on your characters, otherwise you will always end up in standard. For this playthrough, we will go with the new challenge league. I usually play hardcore on most of my characters. For this playthrough I decided that I will go softcore, simply because I want to continue with the character. Even if I die, which will probably happen at some point, I want to continue in the same league. And if I play Bloodlines, the current hardcore challenge league, I cannot do that. If I die, I will end up in standard. And I don't necessarily want to do that, because there is some issues with standards, with standard and botting, and it is quite a different kind of economy. So the economy in those two is way better, and by taking Torment, I can make sure that I will stay in Torment for as long as the league continues. So yeah, we will do that. Alright, Torment, now we just need a name.
You can't
Let's
own
see
a life,
if Kaisan is available.
Not a deer's, not a rabbit's, and not mine. Every soul has a birth-given right to live however they will, however they can.
Oh, I think we have some problems here. Sorry guys, we had some connection issues back here, and let's check if Kaisan... Nope, Kaisan is not available, so we will just go for Kaisan PoE.
They call me poacher and thief.
And this one works. Alright, and here we are. The character selection screen, as you remember, was on a ship, and the background story is that we are a criminal in a sense. We're not necessarily guilty, but we were declared guilty, and because of that we were exiled to another continent where all the criminals are shipped to, which is called Rayclast. And the ship that we were on crashed, and we basically have dead people from the ship crash on this beach. You can see there's a dying exile right here, and we are half drowned in the water. We barely survived, and this is the start of the game. Here we go. One last thing that I want to do before we head off and explore this beach is have a look at the UI and the interface of the game, which I think is pretty important when you start out the new game. So we have life here on the left and mana on the right, which is pretty standard for action RPGs. We will get to the menu in a second, and then we have our flasks right here. You can see we have small life flasks, 2 of them, and 1 small mana flask that we start out with. A lot of games, a lot of action RPGs use potions. These flasks are different, and we'll see once we fight the first monsters how they work exactly. Over here we can disregard the shop, but we have the key bindings, which is pretty important. If you click on one of them, you get a drop-down menu where you can basically see all the active skills that you have right now that you can use, and you can choose from them, and you can choose where you want to put them. At the moment we don't really have any active skills. We only have a default attack and move only. Move only is interesting if you want to get out of a situation. I usually put it on my left mouse button, because if you leave default attack on here, and let's say you get surrounded by monsters and you just want to get out, and you basically you click on the edge of the monsters surrounding you. If you by mistake hit one of the monsters, then your character will just go for that monster and will not move away further, but instead attack that monster. And you don't really want to have that if you're in a tricky situation. So if you go on move only, then he or she will disregard all the monsters and will just keep on moving, which is a good thing. So we'll leave it at default attack for now, but I will change this pretty quickly. Okay, let's get to the drop-down menu here. We have our inventory, and here you can see we have nothing on our character at this point. We only have 2 scroll of wisdom in our inventory to identify items. We'll get back to that later. Not much more to say here. A character screen. Well, let's close this one. In the character screen, you can see what I was talking about before. We have strength, intelligence, and dexterity as attributes right here. Those are the only 3 that you have to worry about in this game. And then you have different tabs here for offense, defense. We'll get to miscellaneous once we get something that belongs in here. It's like item rarity, for example, is one thing that comes in here, and charges. We'll talk about this quite a bit more once we get some items. So let's close this down. Obviously you have shortcuts for that, for the B, C, P, and so on, and you'll get used to them pretty quickly. Let's get into the skill tree, and I have to warn you guys, this will look really complex at first. Let's get in, and you can see that this thing is huge, and it is pretty overwhelming at first. I remember when I started my first character, I really screwed up my first character, but to be honest, that is the way it goes for most people. I would say you guys should, you can just go ahead and try to build a character on your own and allocate points wherever you see fit. That's one way of doing it. You will probably end up with a really screwed up character, because Path of Exile is a lot about pre-planning and basically having your build already set and already decided on before you even start playing the game. If you're completely new, just go on the forums, Path of Exile forums, into the class forums, and see what might interest you, and just start with one of those builds and you will be fine. So that would be my suggestion. Okay, talking about this tree, you can see that we have this big node here lit up and everything else is basically grayed out. So that means this is our start. This is the ranger's start. And since the Ranger is a dexterity-based class, you can see here that we have 32 dex, so way more starting dexterity, like way more of this attribute than we have intelligence and strength. For example, this is the Marauder, which is a strength-based class. If you start Marauder, you will have more strength to start with than intelligence and dexterity. And the classes can be seen really easily in here. So this is purely dexterity, this is purely strength, and this is purely intelligence up here. And in between them, right here, and right here, nope, right here, are hybrid classes. So this is strength, this is dexterity, this is a strength dexterity hybrid. This is intelligence, this is dexterity, this is intelligence dexterity hybrid, and so on. And right in the middle here is the Scion that I was talking about, which is strength, dexterity, and intelligence. And the only difference between any class in Path of Exile is where you start on this tree. You can still, even if you start here or here, you can get to any node on the tree, so there's nothing that you cannot reach. There's only a difference in how many points you need to get there. So this is really the only difference between classes. Every class can use every skill, and every class can be viable for every build. It's different extents of viability, I guess you could say. So certain starts are and certain classes are better for certain builds, but that doesn't mean that you have to take this class. Alright, let's move on from the tree. We don't need challenges and achievements right now. We don't really need the world screen at this point. Social screen is just about a group that you're in, your guild potentially. It's not really important right now. Events and PvP is very recent, I think, that this was introduced. The overlay map, if we go out of this and we press tab, you can see here there's an overlay. Since we haven't really explored anything, you can't really see much here. And you can see that I have this mini map over here as well. This leads to options, because this is where the UI is located. And that's the last talking point before we actually start. Now, if we go into options, we have the usual suspects: graphics, sounds, input. You can just change your key bindings here. Notifications was a recent addition where now you can decide which pop-ups you want to have shown. And streaming is a tool that will help you make it easier to link your account with your Twitch account. What I mainly want to talk about here is UI settings, and we will go through all of them right now. Enable quest tracking is something that I usually have turned on. If you have an active quest, which I do not have right now, you will see some explanation and some bullet points about the quest right here under the corner map. This leads to the second point, which is the corner map. You can turn it on and off. I usually have it on because it helps me navigate. In combination with this, if you look at the map, the transparency here changes right here. I usually have it around here. It doesn't really matter that much. Auto center map is pretty unimportant. It's not a big difference, so I'm not going to talk about that. Always highlight, I think, is important, and I usually have it turned on. What it does is, if you look at the crude bow on the floor, I can turn this off and it will disappear. I have to hover over it to actually see that it is there. It's not that easy to tell that there is actually something lying on the ground if you don't know it already. Some things will still be highlighted even if you have it turned off. Rare items and items with certain sockets and currency items will still be highlighted, so you can pick them up. But since this game, in my opinion, is not only about rare items, as for example Diablo 3 is, some white items are you should definitely pick up some white items because they have a value in themselves, especially late game. there will be some items that are worthwhile picking up. So I usually leave this on to not miss out on anything. Always show sockets. Okay. We can do two at once. Where's the other one? I think down here, auto equip. Let's look at auto equip. Now if I have my, if I click B and I have my inventory open, I can grab this bow and I have it on my mouse. If I don't have my inventory open and I have auto equip turned on, once I click on this bow, my character equips it right away. As long as the slot it is thought for, or it is used on, is still free. So in this case, the weapon slot was still free, and I auto-equipped it. Now, if I turn it off and I try to pick it up, I will pick it up, but it will not be auto-equipped. It will just land in my stash. So let's equip it, and now I can show you guys what always show sockets is all about. You can see the 3 sockets right away, as long as it's on. If you turn it off, you will just see the visual of the weapon without the sockets, and you have to mouse over it to actually see it. I think this is easier. I like to know how many sockets I have without hovering over it, so this is on for me. Key pickup is something that is most important in boss fights. When you have a boss fight where a lot of items are already on the ground and you have to move to evade attacks, you don't want to pick up an item instead of moving, and that could easily happen if there's a lot of trash on the ground. So if you activate this, then you can basically, let's put this on the ground and close this. You can click on the item and you will not pick it up. You can just move around freely, and all the items that are on the ground will not impede your movement. The problem that I see with it in normal game, so if you're not in a boss fight, is that if you want to pick this up, you can't. You have to, as it says here, you have to press the item highlight key, which is Alt by default. So I have to press Alt, and now I can pick it up, which is a bit annoying. So if I don't fight boss fights, I usually have this turned off. Show full descriptions is just that just describes how much you can see about an item once it's still on the ground. Not really relevant. Show life and mana levels is simply, you can see mana 47 right here. If I turn this off, I have to hover over it again to see it. So to me it's just easier to have it on. Corpse targeting I can't really say much about, because I don't really have a good idea of what exactly to do here. I think it is mostly for summoners and detonate dead builds, but yeah, again, I'm not too sure about this one. Join global chat and join trade chat. I usually have them off. If you have them on, then as soon as you log into the game, you will join a global channel and a trade channel, which I can show you right here. No, we're not going to save this. If you have the interface, and on your left side you have these 3 buttons here, if you click on them, you join the chat window. Right now I'm in no channel, so there's nothing coming, but I can manually activate the global chat and the trade chat right here, and you should see some people talking in it. Global chat is usually in red, and trade chat in, here we go, this is trade chat in orange, and you can see that some people just want to sell some items and some gems. So let's turn this off again, and global chat, people will just, this is global chat, here we go. That's usually not, you're not trading in global chat that much. It's more about talking about the game and anything that might not even be related with the game. Yeah, so just people asking questions. If global chat is good if you want to know about something and you don't really know how it works, then some people can help you out. It's like a tutorial in itself. Okay, I usually only have guild chat on, so I can see what my guild members are talking about. The mini life bars on allies are important for summoners again. If you summon skeletons or you summon zombies, then it helps you to see how healthy your summons still are. And if they drop low on HP, then it tells you, well, I maybe should think about resummoning some of them. The mini life bars on enemies are a great addition that I think a year ago or so was implemented. Now, before that, you had to hover over each enemy to see how much life they still have, how much damage you have already dealt, and now, you can just see it like that. Auto equip I already showed. Mouse wheel zoom is simply going in and out, like going close in for a look on your character. This, because I like the graphics of PoE quite a bit, I really like to do this when I get new gear and see how the appearance of my character changes. Also, if you want to invest real money into the game and get some visual effects on your weapons or on your gear, this is pretty cool. Confine mouse to window is for people who play in windowed mode. I'm actually playing in windowed mode right now, so I have this off, which means if I am in a tricky situation and I'm a bit under stress and I just want to get out and want to go somewhere over here, and instead of clicking here and getting out of trouble, I mistakenly go out of the window, the game window, and click, my game will probably go into the background and my character doesn't move and I might get killed. So it is usually a good idea to turn this on, because now I can't leave the screen, to turn this on just for for safety's sake if you're playing in windowed mode. Enable tutorials, they're pretty subtle. I don't know, doesn't really make a big difference. Default loot allocation is for party play. There's 3 different options here. Free for all is when a monster drops anything, whether it be a piece of gear or currency, the first person to pick it up has it. There's no restrictions on who can pick stuff up. Short allocation is a bit different. Here, whatever drops, not the white item, but from a certain rarity onwards, is allocated to a specific person in the group, and that person has a few seconds to pick the item up. If he or she is not doing it and the 5 seconds are over, it will change to free-for-all and everybody can pick it up after that. Permanent allocation means that obviously this allocation is permanent, so nobody can pick the item up ever. The only exception to that is if an item was allocated to you and you leave the area, then it actually changes back to free-for-all and everybody can pick it up. This is mainly important for group play in terms of public parties. If you don't know the other person or the other people in the party, you should make sure that it is on at least short, probably even better, permanent allocation. So now that we've gone through the UI options, we can close this and get started. We'll pick up the crude bow. It will automatically be equipped, and we'll talk to this dying exile.
Dumped near 24 of us off that ship. You and me were all that survived the swim. Never was much difference between exile and the death sentence. Once I catch my breath,
I hope you guys can hear it.
See what Raycraft has on offer.
It's quite.
Thought I saw smoke at those ruins up the beach. It could be worth checking if there's.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so our friend, our dying exile, gets attacked by a corpse that was right beside him. So apparently, those corpses come back to life and will kill him. And this first monster that you encounter here will always drop a skill gem, and it depends on the class that you're playing which gem it is that drops. In the case of a ranger, it will always be a burning arrow, and you can see what it does. It fires an arrow that deals fire damage to its target and has an increased chance of igniting. So you have some statistics here. how much percentage of base damage, how much percent chance to ignite, and so on. We will obviously pick it up. And yeah, you can see that right now there's nothing on our we can't really see it in here. We can't really choose it for any of the keybinds. So what we have to do to be able to use it is put it on the gear that our character wears. And if you just pick it up, you can see that 2 of those are already grayed out. So the color of the gem matters in terms of the socket that we can put it in. Basically, you can say that a red socket is a strength-based gem, a green socket is a dexterity-based gem, and a blue socket is an intelligence-based gem. So it's always about these 3 attributes. Now, that obviously makes it important to not only get gear with a lot of sockets, so we can use a lot of gems, but also sockets with the right coloring. To put it in, it's left click, and to get the gem out is right click. Now, as soon as we put it in, you can see that it shows up as the right click attack. If you don't want to have it there, you can just move it here and use Q or use W. It doesn't really matter. I don't want to have it here. I'm fine with my right mouse button. And you can see that it does a bit more damage than your default attack. But it does cost mana, which your default attack does not. So let's get going, and let's see if we can find some monsters here. There's the first one. It's a drowned. So let's see what it does. It basically just slowly comes away and normally attacks us. There's nothing special about it. So we can use our default attack, which is just this, or here we go, that's the flaming, the burning arrow. And that obviously uses mana. So we already took some damage. One thing that I want to talk about is how flasks actually work in this game, because it's different from what you're used to with potions and other action RPGs. I don't have any life regen, so if I want to get my life back, I have to use one of the flasks. Let's press 1, and if I do that, you can see that I get my life back, but I use some of the charges that I have on my flask. So out of 21 that I started with, I only have 14 left, and they do not recharge over time. There's two ways that you can get them back. Let's look at this. One way is to kill stuff, so I can just use those. See those spitters attack with a ranged attack. I'm just firing some balls at you. Here we go. So I killed 3 monsters, and now I have 17 charges. So per monster, you get 1 charge back. I think it might be different for magic and rare monsters. You might be able to get more back. I'm not 100% sure on that, but basically you have to kill stuff to get your charges back. So now I'm at 19. The second way that you can do that you can refill your flasks is by using a portal and going back to town. If you do that, then all of your flasks will be recharged. And we're actually really lucky because we already found the first currency item apart from these scrolls of wisdoms that we started with. And this is an orb of augmentation which enchants a magic item with a new random property. If you have a magic item, it can have 2 stats on it. And Orb of Augmentation is used if you get a magic item with only 1 stat, so you can add an additional one. But we'll get into that even more once we get an item where we can use it on. So we got another Scroll of Wisdom here, nice. That's actually a pretty good start. I will just skip the rest of this level. You don't really have to fight the monsters here. You can easily level in the next couple of zones. So I will make my way all the way. I'll open the chest. plate vest. Okay, I'll take it. And a quiver. Nice. So we equip the quiver, which gives us additional damage, physical damage, and a plate vest where we get some armor. And we will go all the way over here, and here you can see enemy at the gate is the first quest that we get, and we're supposed to kill this guy here, Hillock. Let's go in closer. He's like a pretty big brute, and if you look closely you can see that he has this sword in his body, stuck in his body. And now we're just gonna start attacking him. You can kite him, but you don't have to. You can just stand there and take his hits and use a potion. So at half health he drew the sword out, and now his attack is increased by a bit. Use your potions as you need them. Use your health potions once you get low on HP. Use your mana potions when mana is depleted, and you will easily defeat him. Now, as a new player, I would suggest just picking everything up that he drops. And then you can go over here, and you see this is the entrance to the next area. In this particular case, it is the first town of the game, which is called Lion Eyes Watch. So we made our way to safety, and you can see there's a lot of people around here, and if you mouse over them, you see that there are other players, level 2, level 17, level 6. The Path of Exile servers, as far as I know, they don't really have specific servers for continents or for certain regions, but it's one big server. So you randomly, once you enter a town instance, you have random other players in that town instance with you. So let's see what we have here. Nessa, Bestel, and Tarkley. Those three are your quest givers in this first town. I will not, or we will not read through all of what they're saying.
I've seen you before, back in
But basically, Nessa wants me to get a medicine chest. If you click U, you can have a look here, and you see that this was the Twilight Strand where we started. This is the town, and the Mercy mission with the medicine chest. It's not on the map yet, but if we talk to Bestel, because he wants something from there as well, now you can see it shows us where we have to go to do that mission. So the last thing we will do in this episode, before I make a break here, and we will talk about the rest in the next episode, is talk to Tarley, because he has the reward for defeating Hillock. And in many cases, rewards in this game are that you can have a choice of certain skill gems. Here we get a choice out of 3. We have a bow skill, split arrow, which attacks multiple targets at the same time. Fire trap is a trap skill where you throw out a trap. When it hits an enemy, it deals initial damage to that enemy, and then it does an AoE damage over time as well. And Reeve is a melee attack gem where if you attack a monster with your weapon, with your melee weapon, the more you attack, the bigger the area that you can attack will get. So they're all pretty interesting skills, and I will explain the skills more as we get them. For now, we have to make a choice, and since this build will be focused around well, melee weapons, but in some sort of a ranged application, we're not going for bows, so split arrow is not really a good choice for us. Reeve might be possible, but I will go for fire trap here, because it is really easy to level with it until we get the skills that we actually want to use. If for buying or selling to a vendor, or also for these rewards, just click, and you could click on this and then drag it to your inventory, which is a bit time consuming. You can just control click it and it will just go straight into your inventory. Here we go. Alright, so we got our first quest reward and we're in town. I would say we end the episode here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you really like the content and want to see more. I will try to produce a couple more episodes as soon as possible, and we'll keep leveling this character. If you have any suggestions on what I could do better, any improvements, please let me know in the comments, and I'll look forward to that. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys for the next episode.